Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to continue on with this kind of mini series of North of England beers that I've been doing for you. These were the ones of course that I brought back with me from Newcastle when I was down there for my friend's wedding. So we're going to go to the west of Newcastle today to a little village called Allendale, which is home to the Allendale Brewery, and we're going to have a taste of their Wolf beer. So this one is described as being a strong ruby ale and it comes in at 5.5%, so it should be quite nice. This one of course was sold to me by the guys at and Glug, which is a really nice kind of little beer shop and gourmet food store in the Granger Market near the central station in Newcastle. All the beers they've recommended me so far have been pretty awesome, but they've got a good selection of local things, Belgians, Germans, all of that sort of stuff, so do go and check them out. Facebook links in the description below. But this beer should be quite interesting to me because if you check out Rate Beer, it says it's an extra special bitter, or English special bitter you call these beers, the ESBs, but I don't drink too many of these beers in fact, and it's a style that I haven't enjoyed too much in the past, but the guys at and Glug told me that this should be a really awesome one, and a lot of people really enjoy this beer, so I'm going to go into it with an open mind and see how we get on here, so should be an interesting review. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Allendale, because these guys are a very decorated brewery, so I will try and do more of their beers. And there's all the usual social media things, Facebook, Twitter and Untappd, so please follow me on there. Your support would be much appreciated, and to those of you guys watching in the north of England, please do recommend some other of your local beers for me to have a look at, because it's quite hard in Scotland to find the more kind of obscure English craft beers, and some of the stuff I've come across has been very good, and there's a lot of good breweries there, so don't hesitate to get in touch and tell me about your local brewery. So anyway, to tell you about Allendale Brewery, so as I said, Allendale Brewery is based in an old smelting mill just outside the village of Allendale to the west of Newcastle. It's actually very close to the Cumbria and Durham borders with the county. So the brewery was founded in 2004 when Tom Hick and his father Jim registered the name Allendale Brew Company Limited, and after much work to restore their part of the smelting mill, the brewery were finally able to release their first beer, Curlew's Return, on Valentine's Day in 2006. But now Tom runs the brewery with his wife Lucy, and she designs many of the labels and also handles quite a bit of the business side of things with the brewery, and they were joined in 2009 by the current head brewer Neil Thomas, who is also trained as a chef actually. Apparently he's got a very good flavour palette, and that's why they're getting really quite good awards for their beers. But over the past few years they've expanded their range and they've won awards, and they've expanded their team as well, so they're actually quite a thriving operation, and you'll start to see a lot of expansion from these guys in the next little while. Their beers, I've heard, are on their way up to Scotland fairly soon, and they're starting to spread south in England too. So a brewery that are very highly rated, as I was told by the guys at and Glug, so this one should be a pretty interesting one for us to try. So if you want to check out these beers, go and have a look at the website just to list the core range for you. They've got the Adder, the APA, the Force, Golden Plover, Pennine Pale, Wagtail, and of course they've got this guy here, which is the extra special bitter Wolf. And they also have their occasional brews and seasonal beers, and they also have their range which is called End, which they describe as being their special and showcase beers. So like I said, they're quite a prolific brewery, they've got a good output. If you want to read more about these beers, do go and check out the website in the video description below, and just pick out something that you enjoy. Just pick a style that you enjoy and see how you get on. This one was picked for me by the guys at the shop, and they said a lot of people really enjoy this, so I thought, well, this is a good place to start with this brewery. So let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer now. So this one is a 5.5% extra special bitter, or English special bitter I think you can call it as well. It's hopped with Target and Williamette hops, with a malt base of Pale Ale, Vienna, Dark Crystal, Amber, chocolate, and also some wheat malts as well. And apparently it's named after the infamous Wolf of Allendale that killed 40 sheep in 1904 before it was killed by a train. In fact, it tells you that on the bottle here. It also says deep red and full bodied, rich and complex malts provide depth, complemented by a hedgerow berry aroma. So this one should be quite interesting. It tells you also the malt and hop base on the side here. There's the bottle cap on this one. I'll just check on the camera that you're seeing this nicely, because sometimes it can be a little bit funny, but there you can see the Allendale brewery symbol there. That's also on the front label. You can see the wolf there with these kind of devilish red eyes, but looks very nice, very nicely presented, this one. And yeah, it tells you all the stuff. It's got a nice kind of flavour chart, 23 IBUs on this one, and it says Great British Beer, so should be an interesting one. It says serve cool, 5.5%. So yeah, let's crack this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Yes, so as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one. But as I was telling you at the start of the video, the English special bitters and ESBs and these sort of real ale style beers that you get in England, I have to admit they're beers that I don't drink too often. And it's just because the ones I've tried before, there are a few breweries in Scotland who brew these sort of old style ales, and I just never got into them in the same way that I did the kind of more modern American style beers and the German beers and the Belgian beers. But there are some that are very good, like Broughton Ales in Scotland produce some really nice beers in this style. So when it comes to things like this, you always just have to go in with an open mind and see how you get on, because there are some real gems out there. And the guys at the shop, like I said, spoke very highly of this brewery. So this seemed a logical place to go. But as you can see, this beer is poured a really nice kind of reddish, it's almost a kind of coppery colour actually. I'm not sure how well you can see the colour. It looks a bit darker on the camera, I can see, but there is a bit of transparency to this beer. You can see as I put my fingers behind it, but it's a bit lighter than it appears on the camera there. It's like, I would say, probably a reddish copper colour is a good way to describe this. There's a quarter finger of a slightly beigey coloured foamy head there. It's just fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a lot of little ones just going up towards the bottom of the head. It looks very attractive, so let's give it a smell and see how we get on. So on first nose, without kind of sugaring it up too much, it has a nice kind of caramel toasted aroma. There's a good bit of cereal in there, and that's something that you always expect from these English special bitters or ESB beers. Definitely a nice little bit of that in there. It's got quite a bit of bready. You can smell a little bit of the wheat coming out of this one. There's maybe just a little bit of chocolate in there, but it smells like a very bready and very cereally beer. You can pick up a little bit of the English hops too. There's a definite earthy character in there, some grassiness, and there's a little bit of a kind of red fruity ester coming out of this one, a sort of berryish or kind of candied fruit aroma out of this one a little bit. Definitely a little bit of that, some grassy, slightly floral hoppy characters as well. That's of course William and Target hops that they have in this one. I believe they're both English, but they give you that kind of earthy, slightly spicy and kind of grassy floral character, both of them. So it smells like a typical English bitter this. It's actually quite nice. A nice little bit of caramel, some biscuit, some sweetness. But yeah, smells very nice. As I always say, give your beers a smell before you try them. But let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the Wolf from the Allendale Brewery in Allendale in Northumberland. Slange. Yeah, that's quite nice. I have to admit that. Yeah, like I said, not a great fan of the style. There are a few gems out there, but this one seems to be pretty much into that gem category, I have to say. Yeah, that's really nice. What you notice with this beer, the cereal character that's the kind of trademark of the ESB beer is definitely there, and the middle of your palate is blanketed with this nice bready flavour. On top of that, you've got the cereal kind of dryness that builds as you start to move into the aftertaste. There's a bit of sweet biscuit and some sweet caramel in there too, and you just feel that there. The dryness starts to come out as you move more into the aftertaste, but it actually smooths out and gives you this really nice lingering flavour. For me, some of these beers can be a bit too forward on that cereal and dry component, but this one has a good bit of sweetness to balance that out, and that's the thing with the malt base. It has to, for me, when it comes to the ESB, it has to be balanced for me to like it, and this one really does quite hit the spot there. Yeah, it's got a good hoppy balance as well. That overall, this beer isn't too punchy in any side of the flavour. It's more like a kind of well balanced beer with a bit of complexity to it. It's probably fair to describe it like that. But in the back corners of the palate, you have a little bit of earthiness. As you move further forward, there's some nice, smooth, grassy character, a little bit of floral as you move towards the front. Probably just at the front corners of the palate, there's a little bit of floral dryness there and some smooth, grassy character. It has the typical English hop flavours in there, and it works quite well. It goes together nicely with this nice, can be quite smooth, typical ESB malt base. And it actually gets a bit sweeter as you take more and more of this beer. That kind of caramel and quite bready character just builds and it smooths out. You get a nice bit of biscuity sweetness going in there too. Very, very nice. There could even be a little bit of a sort of nutty flavour mixing in with that, but that's very, very subtle. The beer leans more towards these cereal characters and the sort of buttery, toasty bread in there. It's very nicely done, this. As I say, a style that normally I don't like too much, but they've done this one very nicely, and I have to give it a thumbs up. They've done a good job with this beer. It's really nice. But ESB, I find, for me, it's always a hit or a miss. It's no, you know, these styles of beer are nowhere near as flavourful as the American beers, as the West Coast American beers. But if you do them properly, you can have them as nice, light, summer sessionable beers. And this one is no exception to that. It's, as I say, very well blended, and there's a lot of nice things going on in this beer. It's quite sweet. There's a good bit of hoppy balance too, which gives you a little bit of dryness. But overall, it's very nice, and that's the main thing that you want from these kind of beers. There's a nice fruity character starts to come out in the beer as well. If you just go round the front curve of your tongue and then go behind it a little bit, you get this little oily bubble that just builds there, and that's where some of these fruity characters are coming out. It's a sort of, I want to say it's a little bit of a, not blackcurrant, probably more of a kind of blackberry flavour that you're getting out of this. It reminds me a little bit of these heart sweets that you get in the Haribo packets as well, in the start mix. It has that kind of slightly candied but slightly berryish fruit flavour to it, and it works nice. That's a nice little compliment to this beer. And I always find some of them just don't have any fruit in them, and the fruity character in these ESB beers really gives it just a little bit more complexity, and it makes it that little bit more drinkable. So again, as I said, a style that I don't usually enjoy, but they've done a nice job with this. I've only had, out of all the ESB beers I've reviewed, I've only maybe found 2 or 3 that I've, pardon me, really quite liked, and this is another one. So if you enjoy this style of beer, I'd recommend it, and if you don't enjoy this style of beer, then this is one that can maybe start to move your palate a little bit and get you to think about it a little bit more. So I have to give this one a thumbs up. So let's have a look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, I would say this one's mid-bodied, there's no question about that. It's got a very smooth carbonation. It's almost, this one actually comes out of the bottle as it maybe would out of the cask. It's very, very smooth. It's got a little bit of an oily mouthfeel to it, and that builds a bit. As I said, you've got a little bit of dryness from the malt base from these cereal flavours. You get a bit of kind of sweetness as well. Around the edge of the palate, the hops are well balanced. At some points they're smooth, at some points they're a little bit dry, and you do have just a little bit of juiciness from the fruit too. So overall, this is a really nice beer. It's quite well balanced. And if you, as I said, if you don't like the ESB beer, this one's a bit more flavourful. It's a bit more balanced than some of the other ones I've come across. It's got a bit of sweetness to it too, which for me is essential when it comes to liking an ESB. So this is a beer that's ideally suited to people who necessarily don't like the style that much, but they want to try something new and try and get into the style, if that makes sense. So it's a really good beer in that regard because it has a bit more sweetness and a bit more flavour in there. So I'd recommend it to people who'd like the ESB and also the people who want to try ESBs. It's really nice, and I definitely wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I'd love to try it on tap and just see how it would come across with that slightly heavier and slightly kind of creamier mouthfeel. I think it would work really nicely with that, and obviously it'll have very similar flavours, but the mouthfeel, to have it with a bit of a thicker mouthfeel, maybe a little bit more caramel in it as well, would be very, very nice. So I'll need to see if I can try that the next time I go down to Newcastle. But yeah, I would recommend this beer to people who don't necessarily like the ESB so much, because it's a good transition. That's the main thing, and if you like the style, of course, I'm sure you will like this too. So this is a very interesting beer, and on the basis of this one, I wouldn't hesitate to drink some more Allendale beers. They've got a very interesting range of things on the website there, so do go and check them out, and I will be back to Allendale to try a few more of their beers in the fairly near future. So yeah, go and check out the Wolf beer to conclude this review. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, go and check out the brewery website and check out my other reviews there as well. If you did enjoy the review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and support my social media things too. It would be much appreciated. Let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comments section below if you do happen to have tried it before. But until my next beer review, it's landed just now. Do recommend your local breweries to me, and I will take a try to have a go at finding these beers. It'd be interesting to try some of them. But I thank you again for watching my beer reviews, and I will catch you soon with some more, and we will be back to Allendale Brewery in the fairly near future. It's landed just now, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers.